Thinking about buying a used truck? Well, there are so many options that seem appealing. Some of them are quite affordable too. But that's for a good reason, because many of those trucks are ticking time bombs that can break any time. Today, we're checking the worst of the worst pickup trucks you should avoid at any cost. We present you a list of some of the least reliable pickup trucks around, with many of them not able to last even 50,000 miles. Let's have a look. 2017 to 2019 Ford Super Duty. Ford's F-250 and F-350 are famous for their exceptional towing capabilities, and while generally reliable, certain versions faced significant reliability concerns. This particularly refers to models produced between 2017 and 2019. During that time, the trucks had significant issues with the 6-speed torque shift transmission. That gearbox was plagued by premature failures. Owners would report harsh shifting, slipping gears, and finally, total failure at pretty low mileage, which completely undermined their reputation as a workhorse. Repairs, of course, were extremely costly, not to mention disruptive. And that wasn't the only thing that troubled Super Duty models in those years. The Power Stroke diesel also suffered from big issues. Early oil leaks became legendary, and the reasons were poorly sealed oil pans or faulty gaskets. Once again, it would lead to significant maintenance headaches and significant engine damage. Ford tried to address these concerns and actually made the following model years better. But the damage was done, and even today buyers have big concerns regarding the long-term durability of the latest Super Duty models. 2006 to 2008 Honda Ridgeline. We bet you didn't expect to see a Honda on a list like this, but here it is. One of the world's most reliable car makers had big problems with the initial model years of the Ridgeline. Honda did impress the truck community with its innovative design, but the entry was followed by some pretty serious issues. It was the time when many Hondas suffered from bad transmission, and the Ridgeline was no exception. Furthermore, this truck would suffer from differential fluid leaks in the rear, which would lead to a lot of noise and eventually complete failure. The suspension system was problematic in terms of excessive wear on suspension components. The rear end was problematic in particular, with clunking noises and uneven handling. Costly repairs and headaches are things that characterized early Ridgeline models, and that definitely weren't something traditional Honda buyers expected to encounter. 2012 to 2015 Ram 1500 EcoDiesel. Back in 2012, Ram was pushing a diesel version of its full-size pickup a lot, pointing out superior torque and fuel efficiency. But it ended up like a massive flop due to a whole set of issues that troubled this oil burner. The 3-liter V6, just like any diesel, had problems with the EGR system. But that was the least concern. Coolant leaks were very common, and once they would enter the combustion chamber, a catastrophic failure would occur, often at very low mileage. The turbocharger in those model years wasn't any better. Frequent low-mileage malfunctions would lead to sudden power loss, whining noises, etc. Then there was the oil cooler, which wasn't working particularly well, so overheating was another reason why this engine would fail at low mileage. Ram promised us torque and efficiency, but it delivered one of the worst truck engines in years. 2000 to 2004 Toyota Tacoma. Even the best ones sometimes disappoint. That's what we could say for Tacomas from the early 2000s. And it wasn't an engine or transmission that failed. No, it was the frame, which would literally break in half. The frame rust issues became legendary, and it turned out that Toyota didn't apply adequate rust protection. After just a couple of years, the frame would rust completely, especially the suspension mounts, which didn't just jeopardize durability, but made the truck dangerous during regular on-road rides, let alone the off-roading. The good thing is that Toyota acknowledged the problem and showed commitment to fixing the issues. In some cases, the chassis would be replaced, and that kind of gesture may be the reason why customers still prefer the Tacoma over other mid-sized pickups on the market. Of course, Toyota improved this aspect a lot in future models, but even today we can find some, though significantly smaller and quite benign rust issues on the chassis here and there. 2005 to 2007 Chevy Silverado 1500 or GMC Sierra 1500. The Tacoma wasn't the only one that had big rust issues during the first decade of this century. The Silverado and Sierra, especially models between 2005 and 2007, suffered too, maybe even more, which made them significantly less durable than the competition. In regions with harsh winters, the frame would rust completely in no time. Undercarriage and structural components would be done quickly, leading to compromised safety and significantly reduced longevity. Trucks are generally built to last decades, but that wasn't the case with these two. Maintaining structural integrity would become mission impossible at very low mileage, but that wasn't even all. Rust was everywhere, including brake lines, which would fail in no time and left owners with costly repairs, not to mention safety concerns. Other than rust, these trucks had big problems with fuel pumps, which would start way before 100,000 miles on the clock, leaving owners frustrated with difficulty starting, loss of power, stalling, etc. 2003 and 2006 Dodge Ram 2500 and 3500. Dodge's heavy-duty pickups of the time were a massive hit, and one of the reasons was that legendary 5.9-liter inline-six turbo diesel from Cummins. That engine was, and still is, flawless, able to run forever. But the other part of the equation was a complete disaster. Of course, we're talking about the infamous 4.8RE automatic transmission, which terrorized Ram owners back in the day with its overheating, slipping, and premature failure. The biggest problem was that the transmission wouldn't show signs of failing. Everything would happen suddenly, and later, it was established that the key problem was in the poor cooling system. That would lead to premature wear and tear, and then complete failure. In many cases, the transmission wouldn't last 50,000 miles, so it's no surprise that many owners had to pay lots of money for replacements or rebuilds more than once. 2015 and 2016 Chevy Colorado GMC Canyon. When GMC decided to come back to the midsize market, it impressed the truck community with the modern design of the Colorado and the Canyon. These trucks were capable and crowded with modern features, but soon enough, they started breaking. The biggest issue was the 6-speed automatic transmission with rough shifting, overheating, and complete failure, often after no more than 50,000 miles. Besides transmission, the 2.8-liter turbo diesel was also prone to early failures. It was praised for great torque and efficiency, but injector malfunctions would often lead to rough idling and loss of power. Furthermore, DPF clogs were way too frequent, while issues with selective catalytic reduction were common too. Simply, there were way too many costly repairs with this oil burner, which cast a shadow, reduced sales figures, and eventually led to the discontinuation of this turbo diesel a few years ago. 2012 to 2014 Ford F-150 3.5 EcoBoost. When Ford introduced the F-150 with a turbocharged V6 engine, it was groundbreaking in many ways. Suddenly, this pickup got more low-end torque and way better efficiency compared to the naturally aspirated V8s, but turns out it would come at a big cost because there were so many reliability issues. Intake valves were prone to carbon buildup, which would restrict airflow and reduce performance before hitting 50,000 miles. Then there was the timing belt stretch, which would cause a variety of symptoms from rough idling to severe damage to the engine. Turbocharger failures were common too, and once again, all these issues would occur at very low mileage, which undermined the truck's long-term value. The early version of this EcoBoost engine was nothing more than a massive source of frustration for many owners, definitely some of the worst years in the F-150's decades-long history. 2004 to 2007 Ford Ranger. Old pickups were simple and therefore reliable. However, there were exceptions like the Ford Ranger produced between 2004 and 2007 with the 4-liter V6 engines. That engine was simple, but it was anything but reliable. It had a huge issue with timing change tensioners, which were prone to premature wear and failure. Rattling noise became the Ranger's trademark back in the day, and with the chain failing to maintain proper tension, catastrophic engine failures would occur in no time, often with less than 50,000 miles on the clock. It was a costly repair and not the only one. The cooling system problems were there too, in the form of leaking radiators, water pump failures, and thermostat malfunctions. And, as you may presume, they would lead to overheating, and then to warped cylinder heads and blown head gaskets. All these troubles would happen well before the truck reached 100,000 miles, while some owners were reporting problems as early as 50,000 miles. 2004 to 2006 Dodge Ram 1500. Dodge's full-size pickup from these years was problematic in so many ways, And the first thing that comes to mind is definitely the premature transmission failure. Slipping, hard shifts, and complete breakdowns would occur already at 50,000 miles. Of course, repairs were costly and frequent and weren't the only ones. Engine troubles were there too, particularly with the smaller 4.7-liter engine. And the keyword was engine sludge buildup. Simply, there was some kind of design flaw in the engine that would lead to oil thickening despite the adequate maintenance intervals. It was particularly problematic in demanding conditions, especially in extreme weather. Then there were electric gremlins, from faulty instrument clusters to intermittent power window failures. The Ram earned the reputation of one of the least reliable truck makers back in the day, and sadly, things haven't changed much up to these days. What do you think of our list of the least reliable pickup trucks? Would you share your experience with some of these, or maybe you have something better, an unreliable truck that we missed to include in the list? Make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.